those hipsters. I want
I said, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop talking to me. Don't stop giving me things.
Alright guys, it's time for another race preview. Today I'll be covering the Italian Grand Prix, the final European race of the 2013 season, unfortunately. But the big news to come out of the last race since Spa has been the announcement of Red Bull signing Daniel Ricciardo for the 2014 season onwards to replace the retiring Mark Webber. Now that closes some doors for the silly season for next season. As it stands, Kimi Räikkönen is yet to announce what he's doing for next year. There's some speculation that he's going to drive for Ferrari, maybe even a return for McLaren, or he might even just stay at Lotus. We're not too sure on what's going to happen yet, but I believe that for probably Kimi Räikkönen, I'd say his best move would probably be to stay at Lotus. Even though they're having some financial troubles, you'd have to say that his on-track performances would probably be best suited to Lotus. If he went to maybe Ferrari or something, he'd have to play second fiddle to Fernando or something like that, so I'm not too sure that would be the best move for Kimi, although he probably would be a little bit more competitive in a better car, but you know, in terms of morale and all that, I think Kimi would probably be a bit happier at Lotus, so we'll have to see what happens there. I'm not too sure what he's going to do yet, but in terms of, you know, the silly season, everything's still up in the air. I mean, there's so many spots up for grabs. There's talk that that Felipe Massa is going to retire. He might go to Sauber or something. Hülkenberg might be going to Ferrari to replace Massa, or he might go to Lotus to replace Kimi if Kimi goes to Ferrari. Maybe Grosjean is going to get kicked out of Lotus, having performance problems. Bianchi is set to move up to a bigger team. He's been very impressive in his first season in Formula 1. So where does that put Bianchi? Where would he go? Would he go to Force India or something? If he did, he'd have to, you know, get rid of Sutil or maybe even Duresta. There's talks that Duresta wants to go to a bigger team, possibly a Ferrari, Lotus. It could be anywhere. But I think the main seats that are probably secure at this stage, you'd have to say Mercedes. Their drivers aren't going anywhere, and McLaren. There's talks that Jenson Button is going to retire, but I think that Jenson isn't quite ready to retire yet, so I think he'll stay on for a little while longer. But I don't think McLaren would get rid of Sergio Perez after 1 year. He's only had, you know, the first half of the season to get used to the car, and he's been pretty competitive. He's been up there with Button most times, so it would be pretty harsh to get rid of Sergio Perez so early on in his stints at McLaren. So I think McLaren's pretty much locked out, so no one's going there for next season in my opinion. But that's just my opinion on the 2014 grid. Obviously there's still a lot up in the air at this stage, but let me know what your thoughts are on the grid. I'd be interested to know what you guys think of who's going to go where and whatnot. I might even do a video on 2014 driver predictions or something along those lines. But coming back to the Italian Grand Prix preview, obviously this is a power track, just like Spa, so you'd have to say that a lot of the teams that were competitive at Spa are going to be just as competitive here at Monza. So straight line speed is pretty much everything, but surprisingly at the last round at Spa, Red Bull were very quick, and it was so surprising because the way that Red Bull make their cars, they make them so that they have so much downforce, and they sacrifice their straight line speed for lap speed obviously, but at Spa it was completely different. They had the best, you know, top line speed, and they were pulling away due to their rear wing, which was easily the smallest and the narrowest of any team in the field. I think a lot of the other big teams were running more of a wet setup, so they had more downforce compared to Red Bull. So certainly going to make sure that they run as little downforce as possible. So I think it will be very competitive between, you know, the top 4 teams or so, and hopefully that you know, it doesn't rain too much and scatter the grid like it did last time. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I think Ferrari are going to be a lot closer than what they were at Spa, I believe it was. Mercedes, they're going to be quick as well. They have awesome straight line speed, and they seem to be going alright through slow corners because they have decent mechanical grip. Lotus could be quick as well, you never know with their passive DRS, if they can get that working this weekend. And also Lotus have been fairly good with their tyre graining, so I think that will play into their hands a little bit here at Monza. It's just the tyre graining. There's no real degradation of the tyres, so Lotus might be competitive, you never know. Another dark horse might be Toro Rosso, because they seem to be fairly quick at Spa, but they just couldn't get the results that they wanted because they were buried in qualifying after, you know, the changeable conditions. So I think if Toro Rosso have a bit of luck in the race, and they could get a double points finish in the race. And Williams, I wanted to talk about Williams because I don't think they've scored a single point in the 2013 season, which is quite remarkable. I think it's even worse than their 2011 season, where they were just having a disastrous season then, even with reliability issues and lack of pace. But I don't think ever in the history of Formula 1, Williams has never gone a season without scoring a point. Am I right there? You guys will have to let me know there. But if Williams do not score a point in this season, that will be a complete disaster. I don't know what's happened with them this year, but they seriously need to turn it around. Otherwise, they're not looking good at all, to be honest. But for the rest of the other teams, it's all up in the air. It could be a complete lottery as to if they get the sweet spot with the setup and strategy in the race. Well, I say strategy in the race, but there's really not going to be any strategy at all, because it's going to be a one-stopper. Traditionally at Monza, there's always one-stoppers because the tyre wear is almost non-existent. So in that respect, it may be a little bit boring, but I think Monza always brings out the best in sort of pack racing, because it's hard to break out of the DRS. With there being 2 DRS zones and the lap being quite short, it's hard to break DRS unless you've got a really competitive car or new tyres or some kind of advantage that can really get you out of the DRS zone quickly. So I think there will be quite big battle packs, and it will be quite entertaining in that respect, just that the pit stops and the strategy won't be as key in this race. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But my top 10 prediction for this weekend, I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton taking out the win and the pole position for this weekend. I just think the Mercedes will bounce back, and I think they've got a little bit more speed than what they showed in Spa, so it should be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. I've got Sebastian Vettel in second place, with Fernando Alonso rounding out the podium. In fourth, I've got Nico Rosberg, with fifth being Mark Webber. In sixth, I have Kimi Raikkonen, who does look a little bit low down there, but, you know, with the other really quick cars, I think Lotus will probably be about third quickest, so that puts Kimi Raikkonen in sixth. In seventh, I have Jenson Button. I think the McLarens were a little bit closer to the pace in Spa. In Monza, they may even be a little bit closer, but I can't see the McLaren being better than the top 3 teams. So I think McLaren will probably be the best of the rest. In eighth place, I have Daniel Ricciardo. I think, you know, he's just riding on a high of confidence right now after signing with Red Bull. He came through the field at Spa, and you never know if he has a good qualifying position in Monza, then, you know, he could finish anywhere really. So in ninth, I have Romain Grosjean. I couldn't put him any higher, to be honest. He might finish 8th ahead of Ricciardo, but that's pretty much just a guess. And rounding out the final points paying position, I have Nico Hülkenberg, with that horrible Sauber that seems to be just off the pace completely this season. But you never know at Monza, things tend to go a little bit differently to what you can predict. So I think maybe Sauber, they might be alright here with their sort of low downforce kind of car. It might play out for them, but hopefully Hülkenberg can get some solid points and really impress the big teams before next season. I think he does deserve a drive in a top team for next season. So that's my top 10 prediction. I'm very much looking forward to the race this weekend. There should be a lot of overtaking. As I said, there should be a lot of battle packs, and the atmosphere with the Tifosi should make for an awesome weekend of racing. So I can't wait to get underway this weekend. I just love it when the F1 just rolls into our TV and living rooms. So yeah, what's your top 10 prediction for this weekend, and what's your prediction for, you know, the 2014 driver lineup, because everything is up in the air at this stage. So I will stop rambling now, and I'll leave you guys to it. So until my next video, guys, I'll see you next time.